Hey y'all, this is Amanda and welcome back to my Texas Zone 8A garden, and today I am starting all of my violas and pansies from seed for my late fall and winter garden. Now I have a huge obsession with violas and pansies. I prefer violas over pansies. I know a lot of people are like, what's the difference? Violas tend to be a little bit more petite, pansies are a little bit larger. And then the petal count, pansies tend to have 4 petals that point upwards towards the sky and 1 petal that points down, whereas a viola has 2 petals that point up to the sky and 3 petals that point down. No, I don't really care about that petal count. That's not really something. It's really the petiteness that most violas tend to be. But I do enjoy pansies as well. I just tend to grow a whole lot more violas. If you had asked me that 2 years ago, I would have told you pansies over violas. My tastes have changed. So I tend to buy a lot of pansies and violas for my end of fall into winter garden. The best deals I've seen on violas and pansies tend to be Walmart for me. Last year I had an amazing deal on these beautiful periwinkle violas that were just stupid gorgeous, and I'll put a picture of them so you see them, and they lasted through the beginning of spring. They were absolutely beautiful and I really enjoyed them. I also really enjoy growing penny blue violas, which are a really deep kind of violet blue color that is absolutely gorgeous. There's nothing like it. And then my pansies, I tend to grow them in more mauves, burgundies, colors along those lines. But this year I'm going to switch it up a little bit and I'm going to grow a wide variety, and I'm going to start them from seed. Now the reason I'm starting from seed is to save myself a little bit of money, but also violas and pansies aren't that hard to grow from seed. Now, a few things about growing pansies and violas from seeds. I've done it multiple times, but one of the things to remember is they kind of stall a little bit, in my opinion. They stall out in their seed trays. Once you get them planted out in the garden, they kind of just hang out there for a little bit, and then finally will burst into bloom and get larger. I do think that the seedlings make a lot more progress once they are actually in the ground or within a container than they do within their seed trays. Now, that being said, can I plant my pansies and viola seeds direct into my garden or a container? Sure you can. I'm a control freak. I prefer to do these in seed trays because these do need darkness in order. They need no light for germination. They need darkness for germination. And that's not something I can really control outside in my landscape. I can control it with putting soil on, but right now everything is just hot in my area. We haven't had any rain. The soil is dry and blowing around. So if I want to get these prepared for fall and winter, it's best if I just go ahead and start them within their seed cells. Now, violas and pansies love cool to cold weather. Truthfully, once it starts getting hot, they don't do well at all. They peter out and die back and they're done. They do like full sun, but they can be grown in partial shade as well. And actually a lot of violas and pansies actually kind of like a woodsy kind of feel with a little bit of moisture and, you know, kind of dappled sun throughout their entire day. In my particular zone, Zone 8A, we can plant violas and pansies and then overwinter them because we don't have really harsh winters. That's dependent on your zone, so I would totally research the seeds that you're starting to make sure that they will make it through your winters. Now, if you're wanting to have these for early spring, you can go ahead and start these late winter. I would start it actually probably early winter inside in seed trays, and they should be ready to go out once you get close to your last frost date. For me, I like to utilize them through multiple seasons, end of fall, all the way through winter and in the beginning of spring. So I gotta get them started now so I can get them out in my garden. Now, when I talk about getting them out in my garden planted, they definitely need a good at least 4 weeks to establish roots out in the garden before your first frost, and definitely a good 8 weeks before a first hard freeze. You want them to really establish the roots down low. If the foliage or flowers get damaged on the top from a hard freeze, most likely the plant is just fine below the surface of the soil, and you can cut it back and you'll get a whole nother round of fresh foliage and leaves once that kind of hard freeze passes. Okay, so let's talk about the varieties I'm going to start today. I've talked about a lot of these varieties before, so I'm just going to go over them a little bit and then put up a picture with the name on them. The first variety is called Viola Cool Summer Breeze, and I picked this one up from Botanical Interests. And these are supposed to be a combination of cool, let's see, colors. Does it describe my colors on here? Well, it's not describing the colors on here. It just says they're charming viola faces. But it looks like dark blues, light blues, and whites with yellow in them. A nice, beautiful mix. Thought that looked really good. The next variety I'm going to start is one of the things I love, which is the Frizzle Swizzle, which are just kind of a unique looking viola pansy bloom. This one is called Yellow Blue Swirl. The next variety is called Brushstrokes Viola. And oh, I should have said that last one. The Frizzle Swizzle Yellow Blue Swirl was from Johnny Selected Seeds. This next one, Brushstrokes Viola, is from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. And it is kind of like, it looks like someone just crazy with color. It has golds, it has deep, deep purples, it has white, it has lilacs, all mixed up in the blooms. Absolutely beautiful. The next one is another Frizzle Sizzle, and it is a lemon berry one, which I'm really excited about the color on that. I actually ended up getting this one from Swallowtail Garden Seeds. I'm really excited. It's veined yellow and berry purple bicolored flowers. They're supposed to be 3-inch flowers. And you should know that most pansies and violas are a more compact plant that are about 6 to 8 inches tall. I'm not growing these as cut flower. There are some varieties that have a little bit longer stems. You can maybe get 10 inches to 12 inches and you can utilize them as cut flowers. I'm not doing that. The next variety is called Black Devil, and it is from Baker Creek, and it is really, really dark. I grew some of them this last year and they were beautiful with a tiny yellow eye. The blooms were much smaller than I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to be larger, but we'll see how that one does. And then the last pansy I'm going to be growing is called Super Beaconsfield, and it's from Baker Creek, and I've grown this one as well. And this is, it says, wildly illuminating purple and white petals make this Swiss giant type pansy glow in the garden. And it is beautiful, and I've grown this before too. In the past, I've started all my pansies and violas too late in the winter. I've started them, you know, late winter, beginning of spring, and some of them take anywhere from 65 to 85 days to bloom. And by that point in my Zone 8A, North Texas area, that's starting to get you into May, and we start hitting 90-degree temps. And at that point in time, the violas and pansies really don't like the hot weather, and so they don't produce as much. So this will be a new approach for me, starting these so much earlier this year. Okay, so I'm going to be utilizing my trays that I get from Amazon. They're super inexpensive. They are linked into my Amazon storefront that's down below. It comes with a tray. It comes with your seed cell tray. They're pretty strong plastic. This isn't like really thin plastic. And then they come with a humidity dome that goes on top. So super simple process. I'm going to be using standard potting soil for this. I've been utilizing that for most of my seeds. I like it. It's worked really well. The particular variety I use is called BM7. And the BM7 I get from Homegrown Plants in Farmersville. And this is my kind of portable kind of potting tray right here. It's easy. It's on my Amazon store as well. It's done really great. I like it that I can just fold it up and get it out of my way. So I start with dry soil, and I just run my soil across the top like this, making sure that I'm crushing, breaking up any clumps, and then I lightly press it down, and that's it. Very simple process for filling my seed trays. So I just run it all the way across like this, and then I use 2 fingers, and I just lightly push it down, and then come back, top it with any more if I need it. And like I said, I do start with dry soil, and then I come through and I fill my containers up about halfway. And then I just pop in my seed cell tray, and the water soaks up really well with the potting mix. For my Lysianthus video, I used my seed starting mix. It takes like a bazillion times longer to soak up the water if you do this process where you start with the dry soil. So that is something to be aware of. And you can actually see these sink down as the water, or as the soil soaks up the water. And then the tops will turn darker as the soil becomes moist. So when you're sowing your pansies and violas, they are surface sow, which is a light dusting over the top. They need darkness when they are germinating. So what I'll do is I'll actually start all these and then I'll keep them on my table as opposed to putting them at the lights behind me. A couple of different processes. You can put like wet newspaper over the top of them to block out all the light. There's a couple of different things that you can do. I'm just going to make sure I have soil on top, and I'm going to press the soil down to make sure that they are all good to go. So I'm actually going to put my soil down. So they're only about sown about 1/8 of an inch deep regarding this. So we'll go ahead and start with the Pansy Super Beacons Field, and I'll put my tag in. Seeds are pretty tiny. And I'm going to put 2 or 3 in each one, just sprinkle them on top. And then I'll just come back through with a handful of soil. You could also do vermiculite across these. I might seed all of them and then get my soil table out. Yeah, that would be smart, huh? So that is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to gently press all these down. I'm going to sow my seeds on top, and once I've sown the seeds on all of them, I'm going to go back with my soil tray and add soil on the top of all of them. So you can see that seeds are real small. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull my tray out like this, and I'm just going to give them a nice dusting across the top and then press them firmly, just like that. And I'm going to leave some of the extra soil on top like that, no problem. Once again, just taking my soil, coming across the top, pressing it down slightly, and then covering with a humidity dome, making sure my dome is closed. Okay, it's actually the next day my guest showed up, and so I just didn't have time to wrap up. But I wanted to show you the final step for my violas and pansies. I actually ended up starting some additional violas and pansies because I want quite a few. I didn't do any different varieties than what I had already shown you all. But now I have 12 times 12, 144 Viola and Pansy seed cells. All right, so what I'm doing at this point, I'm making sure that all my humidity domes are closed up. And then these like darkness. So I'm not going to put them under my lights. I'm actually just going to go ahead and cover them with a blanket, and I'll check on them on a daily basis to see how they're doing. But this is how I ensure that they have absolute darkness. Like I said, one of the other ways you can do it is you can utilize a wet newspaper. You can cover that up over the top of them, but whatever you have to do to give them complete darkness. Now, I have had some pansies and violas sprout even though they did not get complete darkness. I've actually had them under the lights, and I've had success with that. But this is supposed to give you much more success. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this technique does, and I will be sure to give you all an update on this. Another important thing to remember is that once you get about 50 to 60% of the seeds germinating or sprouting within your trays, you want to go ahead and remove it from the darkness, put it underneath a light source, and remove the humidity dome at that point. Once the seeds germinate, they definitely need light. So like I said, there's still time. You can go ahead and start those pansies and viola seeds if you would like, or if you're wanting to utilize them for into winter, early spring, I would start them at the beginning of the winter. Start them inside, grow everything inside under grow lights. They should do really, really well. All right, you all, I hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when my latest videos are up, and make sure you check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's a mad gardener or decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.